Welcome everyone. We are back, episode 7 of the Late Breakers podcast. We've got with the previous race was the Mexican Grand Prix circuit. Autodrome Herman Rodrigo Hermanos. That's the name of the circuit. Lovely name for the circuit. For me, it's just unfortunate the circuit doesn't have so much characteristics. But I guess if you could call the track being very icy characteristic. I mean, that could be its actual characteristic. But joining me again is our other host here, Nash. Nash, how you doing?
Not too bad at all. Excited for this review because it's been quite the weekend. More traditional weekend under our
Bolt.
belts this weekend because it's been several weekends of sprints, and it's nice to have a regular format for a weekend.
Hmm. Agreed. Although it's going to be very short lived, as the next race weekend at Brazil is going to be another sprint weekend. But
Which
yeah.
we do need to talk about. We need to sort out this whole sprint format, honestly, because
Mm-hmm.
it just feels like it's not it doesn't deliver on what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So there is some excitement, but it just doesn't deliver the same way. I think they really need to look at either reverse grids from like the top 10 or something, because then that really does shake things up. Because if you reverse grid the top 10, you've got, at least you don't have the slowest cars at the front. You've got slower cars, but they're the top 10 cars. So that might be a format that they really need to look at.
100%. It is a interesting format, especially because if we're gonna have so many sprint races, right? We're gonna need
Mm-hmm.
something to kind of make it a little bit more interesting for ourselves here, because I mean, if we if we just have a bland stock sprint race where Max is gonna hit pole every single time, win the race or the sprint, and there's no real challenge for him, what's the point of running the sprint races? You know, there's no real point to it. We could have, we could just go on like with our normal daily lives of just doing qualifying.
I completely agree with that. Even just have one qualifying session, because the format they had it before was the sprint would dictate where you qualify. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like that, because now there's something involved here. There's something at cost, you know. Whereas the format that they currently have is just extra points. It's just another race. It's just more wear and tear for no reason. Because and now the drivers don't get to actually practice on the track and show why they're the best drivers in the world.
100%. Like, I think the adaptability of the drivers will be something that could be really tested if what we do is we have maybe an additional thing, like, okay, the sprint race format's already very much flawed, right? Nobody watches practice, so I came up with a crazy idea of what if we had two sprint races on the weekends. Friday there's a sprint race, Saturday there's a sprint race. But I was just like, the biggest flaw with that is we first need to fix the problem with the first sprint race before we can say, hey, you know what, let's have more sprint races. Or potentially rather let Friday be only practice days, right? And you do practice 1, practice 2, and then we do a back-to-back qualifying session for normal quali and then sprint quali. Or matter of
No,
fact,
no,
just
no,
leave it.
no.
Just do quali, and that's gonna be the result. But for sprint race, flip, do reverse grids there, and in normal race is the same results. Just, yeah, everyone starts in the actual
It's
starting position.
there, fixed it. As
Right?
far as I'm concerned, that fixes it,
It
because you
yeah.
have your two practices on Friday, then you have total qualification. It's quali, just the quali session, and
Yep.
then you reverse grid for the sprint, which you'll have later that afternoon, and then race day on Sunday with the actual grid that you set on Saturday morning or Saturday early afternoon.
100%. Like, it would be so. It would bring some excitement, and this is where, okay, that still flaws my plan of like maybe making more sprint races. But I mean, Friday,
No, I
nobody's
don't
most
want more
people.
sprint races. I don't want more sprint races on a weekend.
Yeah.
I'm a busy individual. I don't want to be spending my whole weekend watching racing the whole like all
Whole
3 days.
Yeah.
Like I have stuff to do. Like just like I'm sure everyone else listening to the podcast also has stuff to do. Like the fact that you're like, no, watch more Formula One. It's like, no, I want to, but they already. We
It's like,
spoke about this weekend. There are already so many races. Like we literally have the conversation where where I am Speed was like, no, Danny Ricciardo hasn't been driving for this is the second year not driving, and I'm like, no, he was driving last year, and it's like the season has just been that long.
that it's been like, oh, he hasn't been driving for two whole seasons, bro. I 100% agree with you. And I mean, if you look at it, the president Bin Sulayem, he even tried to say, hey, maybe we should look at getting less races and more teams into F1. Because I mean, with Andretti already heading onto the
He's
grid,
speaking sense. He's
right?
speaking sense.
Have more teams, like 12 teams, having 24 cars on the grid makes it
Exactly.
sound a lot more of a banger because we could have more mid battles, midfield teams fighting each other. There could be a better concentrate, especially with this year. Like we saw some of the results that we can look at just now. I mean, Williams on certain tracks here have been showing some brilliant dominance, right? They are just out of nowhere. They just like out competing an Alpine in pace. Like, where does that type of thing come from, you know? And now we
I
can have,
absolutely agree with you. I
we,
absolutely agree with you. But here's a caveat I'd like to make.
yeah,
At a lot of these tracks where Williams are dominant, most of the time they're sprint tracks or they're sprint weekends. Imagine if you let the drivers actually have the actual track time in order to develop or set up the car correctly. Instead of just having one practice session, you kind of have to guess your setup and then you go into the race. And if your setup doesn't work, you have a bad quali session and then you kind of have a rough weekend. Or you do park for or you change something on the car and you have to start from the pit lane.
which is just
So,
unideal.
exactly. So like I think giving the drivers Friday to actually set up the car is it 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 just makes more sense. At least you have because if we're being honest, they only have 2 hours, and it's not like they're on the track for those whole 2 hours of the practices.
Yeah,
So let's give the drivers time to actually just figure out the new nuances because the car is ever changing. You should give them a little bit of time to understand the track, have that one quali session, reverse the grid, race on Sunday. Simple as that.
I 100% agree with you.
I don't even hate the original format that they had when they had sprints set up the your actual race start. I didn't hate that, but I honestly think the reverse grid, if you want to bring some excitement, if you want to make things exciting, it's a short race. You're giving opportunities to lower teams essentially, but still top 10 drivers to actually stand on the top step. Show some excitement in there.
I 100% agree with you. And I think as well to add to it is once we get 2024, right, the teams, we've seen the evolution that teams are busy bringing, right? Ferrari and Mercedes are headed towards Red Bull right now, right? And the only thing that's saving Red Bull at this moment is that the Wind Witch is busy still cooking up something,
Yep.
right? We saw a recent report that it says Lewis is looking forward to some great battles with Max in next year, right? But there's been whispers of the Wind Witch in the wind doing some magic again on that Red Bull car, and it is concerning for every other team. If they're not worried about what's going to happen, I don't know if those top teams can even compete with
Is
Red
it-
Bull.
the biggest problem is that Red Bull probably haven't been developing their car at all or that much this year. Yes, they have been adding some development stuff, but not at the same rate the other teams are trying to develop their car. So they're probably spending a lot more resources on next year's development, which is not good because they're already faster than everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at we'll go to the times, but if you look at the finish, like the times finished when they finished and crossed the line, Max finished 13 seconds ahead of P2.
Max almost caught up to Guan Yu Zhou. Almost got caught up to Guan Yu Zhou. Dude, you remind you, there was a standing start that happened, which equalized everyone.
Yes.
And Max
Yes,
almost caught
it
up to
was.
Guan Yu Zhou again.
Yeah.
Mind you,
And
Guan
that
did pit again.
True.
So forced him back a little bit, but it's still like, damn, okay. And the fact that after that standing start, right, there were only two other drivers aside from Max who were actually doing similar pace to Max, right? And that was
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. Only two drivers, right? So
Mercedes power.
yeah, Mercedes power, and it's just like that is scary. That
Mm.
that this is the potential of these guys, but also remember the penalty for Red Bull expired already, right? So they don't have any ATR and wind tunnel penalties anymore. So they get their full allocated whatever they lost with that 10%. They have it back again now. So they have that full ability to now use that time on the next year's car. But I think
Yeah.
we're getting a little sidetracked. Let's go back to the
We are.
results
We are.
of Mexico, right? Here you go. And we're gonna start it off with qualifying, right? I think let's go from the bottom. Those first 5 people who got disqualified, right? Number 1, Logan Sargent, right?
Well, number
Logan.
20.
Oh, sorry, no,
Do
no,
the
20.
number correctly.
The first of the last people. Let's say it like that. Right, number
Well,
20.
just call it P20. Let's not confuse people, because I was confused for a split second.
I'll just like messing with you guys a bit. Logan Sargent, right?
Mhm.
He didn't set a lap time. Well, he did set a lap time, but it was deleted. Which meant that he didn't even have a time set for the race. And he was very, very close into getting a did not start because he didn't essentially set a lap time. And it was just by the F1's graces that they decided to let him race either way. Which is a very saddening concern. Because DNF in quali does not look the freaking greatest at all. So, he did.
I do absolutely agree.
It was quite a poor showing from him. And with hindsight, looking at how far he got, it really is so sad to see that he didn't even get to qualify to get higher up.
Yeah. I mean, Logan's been a victim of a bit of poor luck this weekend, which is unfortunate, especially in a time when he really needs to be in the car and actually getting comfortable with setup and everything, especially on a weekend when you do have enough time to get a good setup on. So yeah, it's got to be really disappointing for him, especially after the high of the American Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Like, I mean, gaining your first points and now you're gonna get a DNF and qualify.
Yeah.
It hurts, man. It absolutely does hurt. But I think it could have also been the spell of the back-to-back sprint races, or sprint race, normal format. Sprint race could have unsettled the man's himself, but yeah, that's P20 though. In P19, we got Lando Norris, right?
Yep.
Now, Lando Norris is a
Yeah. No, you see, I have a lot of mixed feelings about that because Lando had a really he had a tough qualifying session, mostly because of time deletion, but it just didn't work out for him. And when you actually see where he finished in the race, it just makes you sit there and go, man, if only he was able to get out of Q1 and into Q2, because surely he would have gotten into Q3 and been able to put that car a lot higher and would have been able to get involved on the whole shenanigans of how the race started.
Mm-hmm. It hurt him. It was.
It really did.
And that safety car was like a saving and not a saving grace at the same time. McLaren had to think of a strategy there for him. And I honestly think because he had that pace, I think the strategy was just a beautiful call from them. Which is it was a brilliant move from him. But we're still on quali here at Lone. I still think Lando was a victim because The one time when he went out to do his lap, Fernando Alonso had the one time where he miraculously just spun it. Right. Mind you, that car is I don't know what. And then Lando got caught in that yellow flag of Fernando Alonso in the first sector, which meant his whole lap was just deleted. He could not set any form of a representative time. I was sad to see that Lando starting P19, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for me, it was really disappointing. The qualifying session didn't make me happy because I would love to see Lando qualify a lot higher. But you know, it is what it is. It does happen. The track is the track, and we've said it before, and we'll say it again.
Right. Shall we go on to P18? Lance Stroll, right? Lance got. He first started out with the United States package on his car where he set this 119.2. And then he didn't. Yeah, this was a bad showing, like, right? It Aston Martin have clearly gotten their package incredibly wrong, and whatever they're doing now to try and kind of like rectify it isn't going. I hope it goes in the right direction for them, because having someone like Fernando Alonso only getting 13th and Lance only putting it in 18th.
Yeah, I mean, look, the problem with Aston is that their rate of development is just staggered, and because they've got something wrong in their development, I don't know if they know where to adjust from. So the struggle there is that they're not able to like put it together. They're not there's something missing within the development there, and Lance is not able to extract enough pace out of the car, in all honesty.
It really doesn't show. With the 119.2 and the fastest, like that's a second, almost a full second slower than Charles's time in quali in Q1, which is astronomically slow. Right? We can.
Yep, absolutely is.
It is. Someone else who is struggling, Kevin Magnussen, P17, right? And Haas is still. You wanted to say?
To me, Kevin has been struggling for the second half of the season quite a lot. It's a little unnerving, to be honest with you, because he doesn't seem like the same K-Mag that we saw at like last season. There's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's the fact that nothing seems to be going particularly well for him. It's not coming together too well. And since we have spoken about the red flag, he was the cause of it.
Oof. Yeah. That is a bit.
I mean,
but I think there's a whole big argument that is to be argued about that red flag. We'll get into that in the race when we start talking about the actual race results and the finishes of everyone there. Let's continue with just quali right now. And in P16, Esteban Ocon. This is the shocker thing. I was not expecting the Alpine to at least be down in 16th, right? Like, Alpine is used to be a solid midfield pack runner, and to only get a 16th finish with Esteban, I don't know whether this is management not allowing packages to be built, and what, or if it's just Esteban having an overall bad weekend for himself. But that was just it was sad to see how slow they've gotten over the year. Right, they had a lot better pace early on. Now it's seeming to slow down, and like Nemesis said on the stream, you can really see each team's weaknesses per se. Right, Haas have had bad overall packages, and the car is just slow all round. Aston Martin have moved in a completely wrong direction for their car, that there is no characteristic to it. The McLarens were slow at first and finally started picking up pace later on in their upgrade packages. Williams always have been low drag team, and then they just capitalize on those tracks where they will have the top speed on everyone else. Alpine and Alfa Romeo are the only two cars that I don't think have a bit of a presence in terms of what their style is. But then Alpha Tauri, a little bit in the mix between what a Red Bull is, but I think they just lack a lot of downforce into their build of that car.
I think that's down to the fact that they don't have enough wind tunnel development. So that's probably the biggest difference. But I think that next year's car is going to be a lot closer to the actual Red Bull. I would probably assume that. I think it will be a more competitive car next season. I think Yuki and Danny will have a much better time in that car next season. Speaking of which, Yuki Tsunoda finished in P15 for quali.
Yep.
With a 118, so he was only 2/10 up on Ocon, but still, I mean, that's a large difference when you're looking at quali times.
It's very big, and
yeah,
like if you think about it, that was huge, especially for the AlphaTauri of this year, right? To be gaining 2/10 over an Alpine, that is magical.
Yeah.
And so I think it was pretty good, but I still think Yuki has more performance in that car. I think maybe he lost some confidence in it, and he's trying to regain that confidence, and hopefully next year, with a little bit of a better car, he will regain that beautiful confidence. But
that's absolutely what we need to see from Yuki.
We really do. But a driver who has, like, I want to say overconfidence in his car is Alex Albon in P14. The man freaking drives this car like it's a bullet. The way he manages
he really does
move this car around, it's magical. Like it's a Williams, right? In 10 years ago, us saying it's a Williams, that completely different statement. But
very true.
Today, the Williams is not expected to do much, and yet we see Alex perform so well with a car
and he's been very consistent. That's been the very impressive thing, because it's not like there's been a drop off or anything. He's just kept his nose clean most times. He doesn't really make mistakes. He's very, very consistent. I enjoy Alex. I enjoy Alex a lot. I think he's a really great driver.
Yeah, can have some great moves, and we need to see a better development for this Williams, and hopefully James Vowles can get that funding to improve Williams slowly.
Yeah, they need to give him time. They need to give him the time he needs in order to actually build a race-winning team, because I think James can do it. Genuinely. Like, I hear the way he talks, I listen to what he's saying. He's very upfront and very, very direct. He gives me a similar vibe as what Andreas Seidel had when he came to McLaren.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because, that energy of these are the things we need to do in order to make the team better, and we're going to do them. So we move. And that's the kind of thing that James brings to Williams. He also brings a ton of Mercedes experience, and that's what you need. You need championship winning experience, and that's what he's got.
Yeah, because I mean, within the next few years, if a team like Andretti just pops up, it's gonna get ahead of them because of they starting off with new technology in terms of their wind tunnels and CFD and factory and all of this. It's just like it hurts, but we hope Williams will give him the time to continue moving forward. But I
think Williams would be out of their mind if they decided that they were going to move on from from James. He's genuinely the person that's going to move the goalposts forward for them.
100%. And if they can just find that extra funding to just make sure that the buildings can get up to date, the teams and the standards within Williams are just up to a competitive level, Williams can become a real points contender, man. It can be there where it needs to be. But
Absolutely agree.
I think we go on to Fernando Alonso, P13. We spoke about his struggles and at Aston Martin and how the package is just gone. Fernando switched over to the Qatar package instead of using the United States package because he was just did not like what they did manage to do with that United States package. And we can see already he's doing a little bit better with his qualifying performance, getting a P13. Although ideally that's not where they want to be when they started the year off so strong, out qualifying the Mercedes, you know. So
I can definitely say that Alonso is not happy right now with the performance of the car. To have to go back to a package that you've driven in a circuit when they've brought upgrades, that's got to really, really be frustrating. Fernando is probably looking at that situation, wondering what the hell is going on and how have we gone so far away from the direction that we were going. So there are some concerns there because you would hope that a car that's as quick as the Aston is would be developed in a direction that's going to make it quicker, not completely the opposite. I get it, it's engineering and wind tunnels and all of that, and sometimes things don't work, but yeah, there's and I think the biggest difficulty is it's so late in the season, so trying to bring additional upgrades is just going to cost a lot more, and because I'm sure they've moved on to work on next year's car, it's just a not good. It's not a good look and not a good situation for Aston.
I think for them, right, what they should do, because I mean we only have 3 races left, bro. It's like
Yeah,
bring the minimal package if you really need to. Bring a minimal package upgrade to the car. Don't really waste a lot of the time and effort on this car. Possibly get Fernando to understand that. Look, man, it's shit right now, and it's a shit box. So let's move on to next year's car. We've only got 3 races left. It may be like about a month for those 3 races, but we still got time for next year to try and improve on the mistakes. At least there's one thing that they've learned, right? Whatever they were doing to create that United States package, wrong, right? And
yeah,
they should move
yeah,
on from that.
yeah. It's one of those. Yeah, it's don't do that. Yeah,
straight
don't
up.
do that. Yeah,
And it's a good learning experience for them. And I think they've got more of the resources to continue to fix their mistakes that they've done and just move forward. You know, it also I think it plays it as a bit of an advantage for them, right? It's not in winter, right, where there's only 2 tests or is it 3 tests that they get with the actual car.
yes, yeah,
And in those times, right, that's when they figure out whether all their hard work and designing has gone to waste, or is it actually something that's gonna bring them back into competitiveness. And for it to be done during the season of 2023, I still think that's a big plus for them where they made the mistake, and so they know for at least hopefully in the off season they can fix that type of mistakes. So 12.
well, all you can do is hope for them.
We really can. In P12, we've got Nico Hulkenberg and the Haas Ferrari. Hey.
Yeah,
Nico.
that's a really good finish from Nico, I think, because if you look at where K-Mag finished and you look where Nico finished, not finished, where they qualified.
Right. Yep.
I mean, five places is a large window, and if you look at the actual time differences, I mean it's more than a second. So Nico really has a good handle on the car, which he's had since the beginning of the season. But again, it's what happened to K-Mag. What's going on at Haas? Because like Nico has really, really decent weekends, and then on race day, it doesn't seem to come together in the right way. I don't know whether it's strategy or just it eats through its tires too much. I don't know what's going on with Haas.
Like I said, I think Haas is just everything's wrong at Haas. Like, if you look at it, even we've got engine failures from Haas. We've gotten, like we'll talk about the red flag on what basically caused the red flag in the race. There's just
Yeah.
slow performance. There are probably no downforce on that car. So just everything.
Yeah.
Haas need a
Yeah, there's a
redesign.
lot wrong with that car.
They just need a redesign
Yeah.
overall. Right. Let's finish up with the top 15 or top the last 20. Pierre Gasly, regardless. In P11, Pierre Gasly. We got a better performance from the Alpine, but for him to miss out on Q Q2 was astonishing to see. I mean, we look at it. Joe managed to get. How did Pierre not get through with if his Q1 time was a
I believe
118.9
he
and
got a
Joe
lap. I believe he got a lap deleted.
ah okay, so this must be the lap that was deleted because it's faster than
Yes.
Joe's.
Yeah.
So he got that lap deleted, which knocks him of out of Q2, which not Q2, Q3. Sorry,
Yeah.
he did manage to get through. There's the time I was looking correctly. 10th. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong lines. 10th, a tenth off of Joe's time, right? That is it's scary because Joe's one of the silent assassins, and to be a tenth ahead of an Alpine. I mean, Audi's looking at that Alpha, looking like it's looking really good, but the Alpines aren't. I don't think they're progressing. I need to go check if they've even brought any more upgrade packages to their car, or if they've just completely abandoned this year's car and gone on to next year's car. Because it probably is that case, right?
I mean, I think a lot of the teams have already done that. As we've said, there's only 3 more races left. And I mean, we see both Alpines with Valtteri Bottas and starting in P9. You know, they both did make it to Q3, which is good, but then they also didn't really produce or show too much.
No, definitely, there's not anything there. Uh, so it's still, I think race pace for them would be a problematic thing. So let's go on to Joe and Bottas in Joe in P10 and Bottas in P9. Making it through to Q3 was a beautiful thing from them. But
Yes, I do agree with that.
I feel like what their performance afterwards was not up to par of what that car clearly is. I think maybe the car's only got that one lap pace in it, and after that, when it comes to racing, it's not that great of a vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's an overarching problem with a lot of the Ferrari powered cars, because when you look at it from that perspective, the Ferrari powered cars are not able to get that certain level of consistency. I don't know what it is in, if it's fully the car, or I don't want to blame the engine, because I know there are multiple factors that could come into having a car that's not going the way it should, but I don't know. It seems like the Ferrari powered engines are, or Ferrari powered cars are a bit on and they feel under the weather to a certain degree.
I think it's the lack of design or direction for them, possibly, right? I think it might be a symptom of a Ferrari problem, right? Ferrari at the top, they have no real direction for themselves in terms of what they're wanting to freaking do. They're mixing team principles left, right, and center, and it kind of spirals down to the other Ferrari customer teams, right? Alfa Romeo is just looking to coast it out until Ferrari takes over. Haas are they're there.
You mean Audi?
No, Alfa Romeo's Ferrari powered team right now, and then Audi's going to take over them. That's what I mean.
Yes, yeah.
And then Haas is sitting there in a weird state right now. I've asked Gunther before, does he is he thinking of changing engine manufacturers before? And the thing is, he's not opposed to it, but they already have a good relationship with Ferrari. But I just think that, man, you're hurting yourself at the moment. Is there really a point to stick with the car if the whole philosophy of the car is incorrect? Why not just flip the whole script and try build a car that's looking towards the McLaren Mercedes type formula? Or I should rather say, look at what Red Bull's doing and try copy that.
I think everybody needs to just do that. But also we don't want all the cars to look and be the same.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. You want there to be enough difference that they're not exactly the same, and that's why I kind of like the fact that I don't know, man. I'm really having a tough time with performances from certain teams because the Haas's and the Alphas are not performing at a level for me. I don't know if it's me expecting more, because I do kind of expect more from Valtteri Bottas. He's a multiple race when I want him to do better. And then you just look at the overall performance of how Haas has been over the past few seasons. I mean, they've only had a handful of really good they had one really good season. Then they've had a more lackluster season since then. And now they're pretty much the back marker.
100%. Well, there's another team that joins them there, but regardless, it hurts to see that type of level of performance. But someone who also didn't have any form of performance, George Russell, a P8 start for him. I think this is probably one of also his weaker weekends here at Mexico. Like, he did not look like his qualifying was okay, but I mean, if we look at Q2, he was 2 tenths faster than Oscar, a tenth slower than Lewis. But then, if we go and look at Q3, he's just barely matching Oscar with a George doing a 117.674. Right, I can't read today. And then Oscar manages to do 117.623. Right, incredibly close between the two. But then you look at George's teammate Lewis, 117.4 for Lewis, right? That's so much faster. 2 tenths basically faster than George right there. And
that's a big difference on track. So, I mean, look, I think George had a really difficult weekend. He's not gotten the setup right. I think he's having a bit of a setup issue right now. Mm-hmm. And once he gets the setup, he'll be fine. But it's just a little disappointing, especially when you see his teammate finish closer to. I mean, essentially, his teammate is starting on the third row. He's lost a bit of that consistency that he had last season when he pretty much finished fifth all season.
Mm-hmm.
And this season it's been a lot more fluctuating. I think we said this before on the podcast. I'm not sure who said it, but Mr. Saturday has been anonymous quite lately.
Yeah, he's been missing, and it's funny nobody even talks about that. Mr. Saturday is actually gone missing, right? But to be fair, I think Mr. Saturday also came about because he was in that Williams and he managed to put the Williams. He was doing the Albon miracles with that Williams, right?
Yes. And granted, I think Albon's working more miracles than George did in that car, but but
different era.
Different era again, yes. But I think it's a little bit of an issue or a problem that George needs to sort of weed out. He's been making a lot more mistakes this season than he did last season. I think maybe the pressure is getting to him a little bit, or maybe he's being frustrated in a certain way. But we do expect him to be closer to his teammate. We do expect him to be, in a lot of cases, beating his teammate. I mean, a lot of us look at George and say he's the next one, so he should be at least on par with Lewis. I mean, but if you look at their head-to-head, I think Lewis is now only beating him by one quali session. But race finishes, that's where the actual difference comes in.
100%. And it just is there. George's consistency is gone. But I mean, to be fair, on the Sunday, he isn't Mr. Sunday. He's Mr. Saturday. So,
Yeah.
But it still is that Mercedes he's in. And to be so far off of where Lewis ends up being in the races in this, or even in just quali,
Yeah.
That does hurt not to get up close in that aspect. But Oscar Piastri, I think Oscar is actually the new Mr. Saturday. He's managed to stay quite consistent the moment McLaren brought those upgrades to the car, right? Lando's had a bit of these up and downs, as we can see, like this weekend, starting P19 or actually P17, but it was a thing that at least Oscar's starting up there. He's scoring the points consistently, and I mean, he's doing his job right now. Although
that's one thing I 100% have to agree with you there.
I think although he needs a bit more, he needs to get a bit more pace into his car, right? Lando had we'll speak about that in the race, but Lando had a lot more pace at hand than what Oscar was attempting to do there. And I mean, Oscar matched most of the other drivers like Lewis in doing 18 laps and a 1:17.6. A little bit slow when I honestly think Lando probably would have been ahead of Danny. It's like a 1:17.3 maybe. Had he not gotten that yellow flag, which just destroyed his whole lap time.
Yeah. I mean, it's really unfortunate. It does happen. I think Oscar Piastri's been relatively consistent. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I like how he's carrying himself. I like how he's driving. He needs to. I agree with you. He does need to address the pace thing. There's something that he needs to just sort of work at. I don't know what exactly he needs to do to extract a bit more pace out of the car, but I think maybe it's a lot to do with the confidence thing. I think once he's got a little bit more confidence, he'll be able to trust in the car significantly more, and then hopefully gets those lap times in.
100%. He should. Maybe it will come. I mean, rookie year. We've thrown away the concept that you can't drive a car greatly in your rookie year, because I mean he's proven it. But next year, I hope to see similar consistency from him in terms of what he's doing with a good package, right?
I agree.
Another driver who's got some consistency since they've upgraded his car as well, Lewis Hamilton, right? He's been getting quite a few great finishes, but qualifying is still a weak point I'm seeing from this Mercedes, right? We look at George and we look at Lewis, right? Previously, Lewis is used to starting on that front row, or even at worst that second row. To be on the fourth row is a little bit third row. Third row is a little bit rough, but I mean, there's some pace that's still missing in that car, and we can see it.
Yeah, I think the Mercedes is set up for race pace rather than for quali pace, which kind of makes sense. I mean, especially for Lewis, because Lewis, number one, points are scored on Sunday.
Yep.
And number two, Lewis seems to always extract a bit more out of the car on a Sunday than on quali day. So I like seeing Lewis's pace, especially in race trim, because he always seems to extract everything he can out of the car.
100%. Like, it shows. I mean, 2/10 over your teammate this qualifying, and the next position he's just within hundredths of that next guy. Fourth place is essentially just a 10th away. So it's not unrealistic for him to gain more of that performance, but we'll have to see with his next qualifying at Brazil. You know, it's a track he loves. He absolutely loves Brazil. So maybe he can get a P1 start for himself. We'll see whether they can pull that off.
I mean, it's a lot optimistic, but I mean that is for me that's Lewis's track. It's a track that he came, saw, and dominated at.
Mm, absolutely. Right. Moving on, we go to P5, Sergio Perez. Now, this is what I was more expecting from Sergio, right? I was looking for this type of performance, a little bit more from him, but a P5 start is not a bad thing for him, right? Because that means he can easily gain P2 when the race starts, just off of the race, just into turn one. P2, he can easily secure that by just sitting in P5, which I was very impressed with Sergio coming back, and I was like, I'm hoping this can keep his confidence high, and he can get a absolute of banger of a drive on Sunday. The foreshadowing there is a little rough in terms
Yes.
of what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
type of race he had.
I mean, yeah.
But it was really a really good showing for him to be up here. And I mean, 2 tenths from Max, right? That's not bad. 2 tenths off of Max's fastest time in Q3, not that bad. Although he he's a lot slower in Q2 than Max, as well as, but in Q1 he was only 5 tenths slower than Max. About five tenths both times round against Max. So, and then he managed to claw back 3 tenths or 2 tenths down.
Yeah. I mean, half a second's a lot, though.
Yeah, it still is
Half
a
a
lot.
second's a lot. I mean, that's kind of the deficit that when we see that it's never gone well for a driver being half a second off max. If we look at it, Pierre Gasly was half a second off max. Alex Albon's been half a second off max. You know, so it's never good to be half a second off Max Verstappen.
Absolutely. And if we look at the driver who's above him, the reason why it's not
Yeah.
good to be half a second slower than Max is because there's the man right there, Danny Ricciardo.
Ricciardo.
Ricciardo. I mean, the man is there to come and steal Sergio's seat, and he's there outperforming Sergio at Sergio's home race. If that's a little bit of disrespect, I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds a little disrespectful. But I mean, let's not make some narratives out here.
Hey! It's racing, guys. It's racing. The stopwatch doesn't lie, and Danny Ricciardo put it where he needed to. I mean, look, for me, Danny had an outstanding weekend because he had a full weekend under him, so he was able to set up the car correctly instead of going with the Yuki setup like he had to go with at the USA Grand Prix. And this weekend he got to set up the car how he wants it with a little bit of, because he prefers a U shape into the corners, whereas a lot of drivers prefer a V shape. And he got the car set up the way he wants it, and he drove like a freaking boss. I am so happy for Daniel Ricciardo getting this P4 in qualifying, because it just affirms the fact that Daniel Ricciardo is a driver that deserves to be in F1 and also should potentially even get a Red Bull seat, because he qualified in an Alpha Tauri in P4.
Yep, 100%. He's the honey badger's back, right?
Yeah. And when you look at where his teammate finished, 11 places behind.
Yeah, P15 to the P4.
P15.
It
Yeah.
really is quite far off that pace.
Yeah.
And Danny did this qualifying, and you can see the progression in time as well as with the track evolution, right? 4 tenths faster than his Q2 time. Like that is a massive improvement, which means Danny probably still has more pace that he's going to extract from this car, and he's going to be a real threat for Sergio in the future.
Especially when you look at the actual time differences between Max Verstappen and Danny Ricciardo. There's only a 2-second difference between the times in Q1. There is a 1-second difference between them in Q2, and another 1.2-second difference between them in Q3. So that deficit, it's different because Checo is half a second behind. Danny's only a second behind in a car that is not the same machinery as the Red Bull.
Are we talking race pace or quali right now in quali times because Danny's
Well,
not
we're
a
talking
second
about
in quali times.
no, we're talking quality time.
Quali times, Danny's 3 tenths, not
Sorry, yes,
1.3.
I meant 10. Sorry, my apologies.
3 tenths, then 1 tenth,
Yes,
then then it's still 1 tenth behind
yeah.
Max. I just wanted to
But like,
clarify.
my apologies, guys. Sorry, everybody listening there. I did make a mistake there. But the fact that he's he is significantly closer to Max than Checo is what's very impressive there.
Right, that 100%. And speaking of Max, let's look at his time. I think he had a. This was actually one of his worst qualifying performances, right? He lost out to the pole, not only to Charles, but he also started behind Carlos, right? Allowing Ferrari to get that lockout of the front row,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's not the worst thing, right? Because you do end up what's it called? Mexico start finish is quite big. You can comfortably fit 4 cars next to each other, right? Oh, not comfortable. You can squeeze 4 cars next to each other on that start straight, and
Yeah, you can,
it's tight.
I mean, you can, but four doesn't go into one. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, definitely. It definitely
So
doesn't, right?
and we know why. I mean, Checo definitely showed us why.
100%. And let's top it off with the 2 Ferraris, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, locking out that front row. Carlos in P2, Charles in P1. That was a beautiful showing from Ferrari, right? 1 lap pace, they on the ball still, ish.
Yeah, I mean, for 1 lap, sure. I think that's cool, but they do sacrifice that in race pace, and their tire wear is not any better. They haven't fixed that yet. So, I mean, cool, you can qualify really well. That's great, but you can't hold the lead. And, that's just it's really underwhelming from Ferrari because you see them have a great qualifying session, but then you also know on Sunday they're not going to be able to hold that or convert that into a win.
Yeah, it is absolutely unfortunate.
And the annoying thing is that Ferrari doesn't seem to adjust. They seem to always consistently think, yeah, we're going to fight the Red Bulls, and then that hurts their race. And they've done it multiple times now. So I don't know. Again, Ferrari strategy or the strategist is a person that clearly shakes a magic cue ball for his answers.
That's why Carlos does his own strategy, right?
Yeah.
And we'll look at his strategy now in the race pace, right? The unfortunate thing of this race is, ladies and gentlemen, we had 5 DNFs, right? This race, which is absolutely madness to see, right? That It's very unheard of. It's out of the ordinary to see 5 DNFs, right? The first driver to kick off the DNFs, Sergio Perez. Oh boy, the first lap incident. Oh
yeah, first lap, not even first turn,
and
it was the first turn.
I mean,
Checo decided to do the same thing he's done like 3 or 4 times this season and pretend like the car next to him doesn't exist. But it does. It's not an inanimate object, Checo. You can't pretend it doesn't exist and then it doesn't exist. So, I mean, he's done it now. I think this is the 3rd or the 4th time that he has hit a car or had contact in a place or a time when he really didn't have to or need to. It's I don't know, man, because he turned so aggressively. He left no space when he made the turn at turn 1. It was a really reckless and really, really stupid decision. And it cost him because then he was just knocked out of his home Grand Prix.
And it hurts to see him get knocked out of his home Grand Prix. I mean, like, I honestly think Checo just needs to gain a little bit more patience, right? He's in the faster car, and he knows he's in the faster car. It's why he's trying to make these moves, right? He's trying to be like, okay, let me get past immediately, and so that my race can really start. But I think that was just a moment where, okay, there's like he knows that there are three people, right? He knew Max was on the right of Charles there. There was no need for him to just immediately go and go on the outside and try keep the corner for himself a little bit there, or turn in as early as he did. He should have just backed off, right? Got behind Charles, forced Lewis, who was next up in line, or Lewis or Carlos, forced them back, and then kept the drive going. He would have made great pace. I think he would have had the pace to easily catch any of the Ferraris, overtake them when it's just a one-on-one battle. There's no other chaos to the madness there, and he could have secured that P2 finish for himself perfectly. And now he's losing out on full points, where now Lewis ends up gaining 19 points for himself, bringing that lead between the two drivers absolutely down. Like, I mean,
It's a 20-point gap now.
20
It's
points.
and 20 points is there's still 3 races to go, and it's a 20-point gap. If Checo doesn't step up, he's going to finish in P3
Yeah.
in the drivers' standings, and that's really not going to look good for him. It's really not going to look good for him.
It isn't. And it's not that great to see, because he's a talented driver.
Look,
He just needs a bit more patience.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
the stress. The stress is getting to him.
I think the problem is Danny Ricciardo has been. I mean, I think it's not even just Danny Ricciardo. You look at it and you're like, oh damn, Liam Lawson's quick. Okay, like Yuki Tsunoda has been super consistent, especially in the first half of the season. Well, was super consistent in the first half of the season, and then you start to wonder, and then Danny Ricciardo comes in, and you're like, damn, okay. Checo's feeling the heat. He's sitting in the hot seat quite a lot right now, and the performance Danny put in, especially in quali, just really, really, really must have rubbed him the wrong way. I mean, it must have made him feel incredibly frustrated that he was sitting right there, right next to him, essentially.
I think it was that, and the stress just got him a little bit, and key errors were made.
That and the fact that it's his home Grand Prix and you want to win your home Grand Prix is one of those things. But it was a bad call in a series of bad calls from Checo. He finally qualifies in a position that makes sense, that's competitive, and then shanks it in the first turn.
It's absolutely sad to see. After Checo's escapades there, it was a little bit of a quiet race for 30 laps until tragedy struck Kevin Magnussen, right? And I've looked back at the replay, and as he was going through those little S's there, his rear left just, like, it exploded. The suspension just gave out entirely, which sent him flying into the wall, which was...
And that car looked absolutely wrecked. Absolutely wrecked. I'm very happy K-Mag was able to get up and get out of the car and is okay. But man, that looked like some serious damage.
It really was, and that's not something you need to happen to your car at nearly the end of the season, man. It's just...
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
That's going to be a full rebuild right there, and that's going to be a pricey one.
It really is. And for me, it's more of how the hell did that happen, right? Did they put a faulty part on that just ended up helping the snap? Because we saw it was mainly once he put the load on those outer tires, that rear left just said, bye, I'm done. We're going into the wall now. So, thank goodness for the safety measures that we have put into the cars.
100%.
Oh, that did not look like it was any form of a fun fight. A crash, not fight. From Kevin.
I 100% agree.
Right. The next DNF was Fernando Alonso. Okay, you're going to need to maybe remind me of what happened to Fernando a couple laps later on lap 47. Dude,
to be honest with you, I can't even remember why Fernando had to pull out.
I honestly think it would have been due to the car just not being favorable for him. He was dropping down. It was already after the restart, the standing
Yes,
start,
it was.
and maybe I don't feel like Alonso got into any form of a crash, so that doesn't mean that. I think maybe they just retired the car because of a fault. And I remember seeing one of the Aston Martins getting pulled into the pit stop, into the pits, which I think that was Lance Stroll. And for Fernando, I honestly did not even notice that Fernando retired. I thought he was still
Yeah,
racing.
I'm not gonna lie.
Right. I have nothing more to say there. So Lance Stroll's retirement was after his dive bombing, nearly T-boning Valtteri Bottas, which what I find criminal is that Bottas received a 5-second time penalty for causing that collision. Right. That was something I don't think it was called for at all. Stroll was trying to do some freaking magical overtake into the hairpin shenanigans, and my boy, if you don't have the pace or the grip there, you're just going to get sent out. And that ended
Yeah,
up
I mean,
happening to him.
yeah, I agree with you. It was somewhat of a questionable decision, but you know, I think they have given a similar call earlier in the season, so they kind of trying to be consistent. But that call didn't seem like it fit, and I don't think Valtteri deserved the penalty for that. In all honesty.
I also don't think so. And once again, this is another case of penalties being served after the race is done. Like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
that,
yet,
that makes
yet again, the FIA is making these decisions after the race is completed, which is just it's really frustrating for everybody involved.
it does. And like, just get the penalty over and done with now. Like, I thought Sergio was also gonna get a penalty, and then Red Bull were just gonna send him out again and do the thing where he goes and serves the penalty in the
Yeah,
race and then retires again. Which I and so I don't know. I think they still need to fix this little issue that they have of let's give penalties after the race because we don't have enough time to say whether the ruling is left or right. When
yeah. I don't know how many stewards there are and like what their numbers look like, but surely maybe they need to just get more people to assist with reviews or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen will be a problem. But I don't know what the solution is. The problem is that decisions take too long to be made, and when they're made, sometimes they're wrong, and that's really frustrating for everybody involved.
it really is. And for me, this is the one shocking thing I found is actually if you look at P16, Logan Sargent got a DNF, right?
Yes, he did.
Is that a rule that F1 have made that you cannot finish the race in the pit lane? Because he's done.
Ah,
He did his
uh,
two mandatory compounds,
yes.
but the thing is, on that last lap, as he was coming into the hairpin start, his engineer told him, "Logan, cool down the car. We have to. You're gonna have to end the race in the pit lanes, right?" Which ultimately
Yeah.
sent him from P12 all the way down to P16, which was absolutely saddening to see. I mean, he did such a great drive to get himself up to P12, and then I'm guessing,
And only 3 places behind your teammates
yeah,
when everybody's been giving you flack and so much hell. But yeah, I do somewhat feel sorry for Logan in that sense. Um, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation that Logan has found himself in.
just not
But
gain.
it's also got a lot to do with the fact that earlier on in the season, when he was at tracks that he knew, he wasn't able to actually put it together and do anything with it.
No,
At least if he showed consistency, that would be great. But unfortunately,
there
he
wasn't.
hasn't shown much of that. Yeah,
Yeah. Then P15, Valtteri Bottas, one of the silent assassins. Their
indeed.
their pace was horrible. I'm talking, they were basically 2 seconds off of Max Verstappen's pace in the whole race, right? 2 seconds is a very large gap to be off in terms of at least the front runners, right? Uh,
Um, yeah.
that is just that they nowhere if they're gonna be running 2 seconds behind.
The problem is that they've kind of been nowhere for most of the season. I mean, they're they're consistently underwhelming
Yeah,
and consistently anonymous, where you almost forget that they're on the track, and then every now and again the camera will cut to Valtteri or
show.
Joe, and you're like, oh right, yeah, because you see them and you're like, what car is that? And then you go, oh, yep, those are the Alfa Romeos, right, they are in this race. They are in this race. I have been watching them the whole time.
For me, what was more the saddening is that Valtteri Bottas finished 4 seconds behind Joe, right? A multiple race winner being beaten by your teammate. That is just like, I don't know, Valtteri. That this isn't the form that we know you to be in. I mean, as a race car
Especially
driver.
at a track that he's won at.
Yeah, this is something where I would have expected him to at least stay at. Oh wait, I remember. It's actually Valtteri did finish ahead of Joe, but the 5 second time penalty. I just read it again.
Right. Yes.
5 second
And we
time
were just
penalty.
talking about that.
Yeah, we completely forgot. So
Yeah.
it is just unfortunate to pick up a penalty that just sends you back behind your teammate for no reason.
Yeah. That's
It,
yeah. Again, it goes back to the stewards and the fact that it's not like they are not. There's certain things that are just they are they're not applying the same sort of ruling to everything, but then sometimes they do, and it's just really frustrating because you never know what you're gonna get with them.
yeah, absolutely. And hey, which leads us to Joe as well. Also,
Mm-hmm.
both of them started P9 and 10, and they just started dropping back into the pack from the start of the race.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe,
They really struggled. They really struggled. I mean, Joe had to do an additional pit stop. He just never really got, a proper handle on the racetrack this weekend.
mm-hmm. And it just, I mean, he was the first driver to even pit, right?
Yeah.
And it was like he's pitting so much earlier than even the first pit window for the mediums, which was around lap 20, right? And
Yeah, he did way too early.
for that, I'm just like, are you trying to undercut someone or what? Because if you are, you firstly need the pace, right? Before you're gonna try and undercut anyone, which just didn't seem to end up working for him. He managed to only stick it out into P14, and mind you, he was still supposed to actually be P15 if Logan Sargent finished the race. So he's fallen off the map entirely. As well
Yeah.
as
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's been it's been a really tough fall off for Alpha because you would have expected them to develop the car a little bit more and actually be, a midfield contender because they kind of feel like they should be. Audi's probably looking at that with some mixed emotions, but again, they're going to have to do a lot of development to bring that car to where it needs to be.
100%. They really do well. As well as we then have it's Nico Hulkenberg, the last of the Haas drivers, into P13, right? He
Yeah,
That was just was it a gain of position? Starting grid, Nico Hulkenberg. No, he lost one position, which was just
yeah.
not beneficial for him, right?
I think the trouble is a lot of drivers had rather anonymous races yet again. It's
Mhm.
it's been the tail half of this. maybe the last maybe 4 or 5 races, we've had a lot of drivers that kind of have just disappeared amongst the tarmac and seem almost invisible because they haven't had that many talking points around them throughout the actual Grand Prix. And unfortunately, Nico Hulkenberg's one of those guys who's just had a rather underwhelming and lackluster second half of the season.
100%. And it doesn't. We have a word for it as well. It's called backmarkers. And that's what they've fallen into. They've fallen into just being backmarkers at this point. And
I mean, I don't think they fell into it. I think they've been it for a long time. It's just we are struggling to accept it because we actually like K-Mag and Nico Hulkenberg.
I don't think there's anyone we don't specifically dislike that much. Okay, Lance Stroll, but like we.
Yeah, I was about to do that exact thing. If you didn't do it, I was.
Yeah, and I mean, we just want to see them not be that far off the pace. I mean, fair enough. Nico was a little bit closer. He was like about a. If the Haas's and the Alfa Romeos were over 2 seconds behind, Nico was closer to 1.8 behind in terms of pace, which is still incredibly slow, right?
Yeah, I was about to say that's not good. I mean, like, it's not great, but it's better, especially when you look at the fact that there's potentially some reliability issues. I mean, the fact that he kept driving confidently is impressive because he has a very strong will to be able to push himself through that. Because if I watched that video and saw what happened to K-Mag, I would be like, oh dude, what kind of car have you got me driving?
100%. Let's move on to P12, right? This is the driver I was disappointed with the most in this race, right? Yuki Tsunoda in P12. He did a little bit of a recovery drive for himself to get back up to P12 after his little collision with Oscar Piastri, right? At the point at which they had that collision with each other, I honestly think Yuki should have just sat there and just accepted the points he was going to be given, right? It's hard to say that. It's incredibly hard to say that when you're right there in the DRS of the driver ahead of you, and you feel like you can gain those points, right? But sometimes it's just like, the team's getting double points. Let's just bring this car home, right? Sometimes you just need to relax, give yourself some of a breather room, because if he scored the points and everything, he gives himself some breathing room. It's like, okay, cool, I did a better performance than before. But now getting knocked back hurts him.
Especially when Daniel Ricciardo actually scored 6 points in this race and is only 2 points behind him in the driver's standing now. And he's only been there for like 3 races. So that's not a good look for Yuki, number one. Number two, I think the problem is that he already touched Oscar the lap before. So he already knew that there's potential for contact. And he did it again, made contact, and then was angry. And you're like, no, dude, you made the mistake. You did it again. It's like you can't be angry at anyone but yourself, honestly. Because Yuki genuinely made a reckless decision because he touched him before, the lap before, and then he did it again, and he ended up spinning.
I think this is where Yuki's got to learn how to fight aggressively against the driver and try to force a bit of an error out of the driver in front of him so that he can gain that position a lot more easily. Although fighting Oscar's not that hard. Or
be smart and make them defend a specific way that allows you to use other parts of the track.
Yeah. The thing is, Oscar's also a sly fox. He's not gonna just lose a position without either one, it's his teammate who's just got better pace than him, or two, being that he's just gonna fight you, or you've just overall got a faster car than him, so it's no point in fighting you because he's just gonna end up maybe in this position that Yuki ended up in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, but hey, hindsight's 2020. I know he probably looks at that and is really upset about the fact that he he did touch him before and then now made another move and it ended up spinning him. He's definitely not happy about that. And I'm telling you that the debrief is not going to be pleasant at all.
It was not pleasant in the slightest. It's gonna probably be happening right now as we speak. That debrief is not going to be the nicest thing to see ever. As well as P11, Pierre Gasly, right? And P10, Oscar Esteban Ocon. No, not Oscar. Esteban Ocon, right? These two drivers sat in each other's train for so long. And I mean, we had a great commentary from Esteban. He even said, "Call Haas, I'm going to come knocking on their door now." So I was like, okay, cool. This means you're overtaking Nico this lap or the next lap immediately. You're not even playing around with him. 15 laps later, Esteban is still behind Nico. I was like, what? Where'd this confidence come from? I would love to have this confidence. But
yeah. Especially when you're doing such an average job, bruh. You're just out here like, yeah. I am number one. I'm gonna crush it, and then just
like,
neatly kind of just do it. But like he didn't even manage to overtake him on track. That's the thing that's annoying. Like you can't talk that kind of game and then not overtake a man, bruh.
Like his teammate managed to overtake Nico on track, right?
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
the saddening part, was because
Yeah.
like Pierre took 2 laps to overtake him, and the funny part is Pierre was still faster than Esteban. It's just that
Honestly, it's one of those things that they should have inverted positions and let him try chase. But then when you look at the actual gap between Albon and Ocon, you're like, yeah, nah, that wasn't gonna happen. There's almost a pit stop in there.
almost there basically is a pit stop in sitting
Yeah.
in there, and it wasn't worth the team orders to swap Pierre or Esteban at all. I think
Yeah,
it
we've
could
seen
have
how
helped.
that went.
Ugh,
I mean,
Japan.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, yeah, no. But look, they eventually got the job done. Esteban scoring the 1 point for himself, which was pretty okay. After that,
Yeah,
it was a
I
joke
guess.
that his commentary made it entertaining. I'll give him that. Right, Esteban made himself a little bit of a character, which could brighten up my day to see him say he's gonna overtake Nico. And 15 laps later, the man's like still behind Nico. I could laugh brilliantly there.
Yeah. I mean, look, they they're going to finish sixth in the constructors because Williams is not going to catch them. They're on 28 points. Or Williams is on 28 points and Alpine is on 101. So they're not going to get caught, but they're also definitely not going to catch Aston because Aston's on 236. So look, they have secured sixth place.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's like you've secured sixth place, but at what cost? At what cost? Because you got rid of Up now. His hires didn't even come in. You've got some random dude in a suit who's now in charge, who used to run Peugeot Motor Group or Peugeot Motorsport. What is Peugeot Motorsport? What is that? Have you ever heard of that?
I slightly, right. I heard that Peugeot is doing something in Le Mans, but like, isn't that recent?
I have
Some
seen them
recent things.
I have seen them make 7 ugly cars for Le Mans, and they've never done anything with those ugly cars.
Hey man, I just heard. That's what I heard, because like when the new Le Mans rules changes came in, I was like, oh shoot, Peugeot's joining. So I thought they were new constructed to the whole Le Mans. If they've been around for a while, then hot damn.
Well, I don't think they've been around in Le Mans for a while. I have no idea what the hell has been going on with Peugeot's sporting group. But again, the only thing sporty that comes out of Peugeot is a Peugeot 208 GTI or a 308 GTI. That's the only thing that comes out of Peugeot that's sporty. And if you honestly ask me, it's like, yo, do you want a Peugeot GTI? It's like,
Nah.
I mean, no, thank you.
I'm good.
Good. I mean, if you're offering it to me for free, I get. Yeah, I'm not gonna say no to a free car, but
go sell it at fair market value, man.
If you're saying like, hey, you could have this, or let's say a Fiesta ST, it's like we're grabbing the Fiesta ST, boys.
Exactly. Let's go moving at that, right? On to P9, right? Alex Albon.
Yes,
This
the
was
fan favorite.
a fan favorite, bro. You know, I feel like Alex was slowly catching Oscar at the end, slowly, by like I'm talking a tenth maybe every odd lap.
Yeah, the problem is there weren't enough laps for Albon to catch Piastri, and
It's five
yeah, I
seconds.
mean, it's a lot of time. 5 seconds is so much time.
It's
I
huge.
don't like. He would need Albon would need so much more rubber on his tires in order to, and probably softs in order to catch, uh,
Oscar.
in order to catch Piastri. Honestly, because
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing: Oscar kept his nose clean and kind of just drove it home, and
I don't know. I wouldn't say he kept it clean. He still got into
he
some
tried.
contact, but
He
Albon
tried to.
was clean.
Well, no, that's what I meant. Albon kept his nose clean.
Yeah,
Did I say? Did I
you said
say?
Oscar kept his nose clean.
Oh,
Oscar
my apologies. My
got
apologies.
it some
I meant
incidents.
Albon. I meant Albon. Yeah, Albon kept his nose clean. He was very he did his thing. He stayed consistent, and considering the fact where he actually qualified, which was P14, to actually finish up in the points, that's a really good result.
The one thing I just want to say is Williams put him in a bad spot, right? They stole some. Williams themselves stole positions from Alex, right? Because Alex was in a prime position. He was still on the hards, up in P8 for majority of the race for 31 laps, and or not even 31 laps. For I think it was 29 laps. He was there on those hard tires.
Yeah.
No, it was actually up to 31 laps. Then Magnussen crashed and called out a safety car. But Alex
Yeah.
should have had the foresight there to look at that barrier while he's going at the slow pace
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tell them,
Well,
no boxing right now. That's a red flag, right?
but here's the thing: the team are the people that are supposed to know that. Alex Albon is not doesn't have a screen in front of him to show him what is happening around the track all
bro,
the time.
bro, he
So I
drove
don't
past the
understand how the
incident.
team made such a bad decision, because we all know when the Tech Pro is damaged, you need to replace it.
100%. And Alex can see that, right? He's not driving at a speed, right? Where because it's safety car, right? So regardless, you don't even need to be to speed or match a lap delta time, right? Because you're all gonna get bunched up regardless, right? He
Mhm.
can easily stroll by, have a look, and see, oh, the Tech Pro is broken. The team's calling me in for a box, and then radio in. No, let's not box. Let's wait. Fair enough. It's a little bit of a sketchy thing to be like, has the Tech Pro been that broken or not?
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
does play into the team should have looked at it properly and to see. Because I mean, we
yeah.
had a lot of replays. I think
We did.
we
That's the
got two
thing.
replays
We have,
of him crashing, which would have told the
and
team
the
all
thing
they
is,
need.
they can slow down and pause in the garages. But I just want to play devil's advocate for a split second there and just say, maybe I mean, because Williams hasn't got strategy wrong yet, especially for Albon. So maybe when they said, "Yo, box," he's like, "I cool, I got you," because they haven't. It's not Ferrari. They're not sitting there with Alex doesn't have trust issues with
100.
Carlos. So there's not an insurmountable amount of this person's telling me to box. Do I believe you? It's a box. Why should I box? Tell me why.
I agree with you. I agree.
Is that almost feels like how Carlos approaches it, rather whereas Alex doesn't have to, because the team has always gotten it right or made the right call. So I have to say, yeah, he has placed his trust in the team, and in that regard, yes, it didn't work out as well as it could have, because he could have potentially finished with more points, but he still finished in the points.
No,
He
no,
still managed to grab he still managed to grab 2 points, and that's better than nothing.
oh, yeah, 100%.
Better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. But like, if you look at it, he put for the mediums, drove a few laps on those mediums, and then swapped tires to a used set. Like he had a fresh set on, and he had to go over to a new, or not a new, a completely different set of tires with that strategy. Whereas he could have pulled a little bit of a Lewis Hamilton, get up closer to Oscar Piastri there, and had he had the pace, maybe he didn't have
Yeah,
the pace. Maybe Williams figured out that Alex wouldn't have had the pace at the end, but
yeah, maybe.
maybe something else I'm missing out there. But I think the safety car did overall screw up his strategy, and that red flag ultimately did. I mean, but overall, I think everyone's strategy got screwed up. The only person who was there's only two people who are the biggest winners off of that strategy, and that was Danny Rick. The red flag, not the strategy. The red flag benefited Danny Rick and Lando Norris,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Two
Can
drivers,
confirm.
100% benefited them.
Well, here's the thing. The weird thing for Lando is that Lando, I think, was in P10 when the red flag flew, and then at the restart he lost like 4 positions.
No, it's the other
So
way around. Lando
yeah,
was up into P. He was ahead of Alex Albon. He was up into P8, right?
yeah,
Cause yeah, he was ahead of he was into P8. He then boxed during the safety car
mhm,
period to go and pit for new tires, and then the red flag came out, which put him further down in positions
yes,
where he got further
yeah,
down
and he
to
started.
P12.
Okay, then he lost 2 positions at the restart then,
Yeah, and then he
because
climbed the way back up.
yes, he did. But he had a mixed bag of a race this weekend.
Before we get to him, let's talk about his
Yeah,
teammate in P8, Oscar Piastri. I feel like
yeah,
he had no
Oscar.
pace. He had no pace this
Yeah,
weekend.
he didn't seem to get a grasp on it this weekend.
Like
Um, his his quali pace was decent. He kind of finished where he started. I think he might have lost a position, but he didn't go up, didn't really go down, didn't. He just had a, I wouldn't say quiet, but he had a race. It didn't make too much noise, and yeah, I mean, it was a little bit lackluster and underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I agree. He lost one position overall
Yeah.
from the start, but his pace just didn't seem to exist at all after that restart. He didn't have anything. His only battles that he really had was with Yuki Tsunoda, and Yuki was looking like he was a lot faster than Piastri, right? And had Yuki overtaken Piastri cleanly, I think Oscar would have ended up P9, and we would have had a little bit of a shocker for him because I don't know where his pace. Overall, I just think he didn't have the pace in him, and I mean, 4 seconds behind Danny Rick, he was slowly inching forward, I guess, to Danny, but not enough that he could say that he could confidently overtake Danny with the tires and strategy he was on there. So it was just a
I went.
relaxed weekend.
Yeah, it was just, yeah,
Relax one.
rather pedestrian.
I say relax, but he had stressful moments where Yuki and him got into contact quite a few times. That's not relaxing.
Yeah.
It's very scary moments for yourself, right? Then in P7, Danny Ricciardo, however you love to say his name, right? P7 finish after his return, his second return from his hand injury, and
I
he's
believe it's called a re-return.
a re-return. Lovely. To gain 6 points just like that, right? That's crazy. That's just shows Danny had a 18-month break or something like that. Less than no, not 80. He had like a 6-month break, and he still had that dog in him. He still had that honey badger aggression to fight for his position and stay there. So I think that was a pretty great showing from Danny this weekend.
Now, Danny, I said it earlier. Danny had a great weekend. He number one finished in the points. He
Yep.
number two finished ahead of the McLaren driver that took his seat, and he absolutely dominated the absence of Checo. And yeah, he had for me a complete weekend.
I'm just saying, Lando still bodied him. I'm just saying I know we had a discussion over the weekend about it, but
We did.
I,
We did.
we
No, no,
did.
no.
We did.
I will not. I will not discredit that at all.
But
But yo, come on.
yeah,
Danny's still Danny.
that is still that. He still put it on into P7 to gain 6
Yeah.
points like that on a re-return. That is bang. I'm still interested to see his performance at what's it called at Brazil next weekend. No, this weekend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We'll see. We shall see if it is all just the hype or if Danny Ricciardo is actually doing Danny Ricciardo things again.
right,
Because I think Brazil has the characteristics that Danny likes.
definitely. And right now, like I've seen one news source was reporting that there's some speculation that Danny, if he puts himself in these places again, he's the highest contender for that Red Bull seat for next year. Not even the year after 2025, next year. Which which is still a thing. Checo still needs to play his cards right. Don't let Lewis get that P2 finish. But we still
Dude,
have
you know what?
Mexico. We have Mexico
You know
to
what
see.
the thing is? You know what the thing is that I feel like Lewis is going to beat Checo. I feel it in my gut, bruh. I really do. There is a certain level of competitiveness and consistency that Hamilton has shown. He's been on the podium so much recently, and Checo has been like not finishing races, crashing out, making mistakes, having laps deleted, black and white flags, time penalties. It has just been issue after issue after issue after problem after problem after problem for Checo. And Lewis is coming for him in the driver's standing, and Danny Ricciardo is coming for his seat.
And that's a lot of pressure on Checo right there. Because he's
He's
coming
getting
attacked from
attacked
two
from
angles.
he's getting attacked, and no one is coming to save him, bro. Like
No one. He's just getting. He's like
no one.
You know that meme of where it's like Red Bull. They holding up. It's like the mother's holding up the kid, and then there's
Yeah,
a skeleton at the bottom of the water just drowning. Right, the
yeah,
mother is Red Bull holding up Daddy, praising him. Right, well,
bruh,
Checo's just at the bottom, just sinking, like a
dude.
sinking ship, dog. It's just yeah.
But the problem, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I can't sit here and go, "Oh man, poor Checo." It's like, no, man, Checo, you made so many mistakes. You
100%.
made so many mistakes, and
It's
and there's
madness.
several times where you're just like, nope, I can't excuse that. Nope, I can't excuse that. Nope, I can't excuse that. The track is the track. The track is the track. The track is the track. Every
Stay
time you get a time penalty, dude, the track's the track, bro. Every time you make a reckless mistake and crash into someone because they didn't jump out of the way, that is your fault. So he can't repeatedly make mistakes and then you go, oh, shame, poor Checo. It's no, dude. It's yes, I do feel sorry for him. I do feel like this is an unfortunate chain of events, but genuinely, you have the fastest car on the track by a long shot, and
just
it doesn't seem like it.
yeah, it doesn't really make it look like that way. But let's move on to George Russell in P6. This is another driver who looked like he had no pace and no bearings, right? George looked like he
Yep.
didn't know what was going on in his life. Right. After that red flag, I think Mercedes obviously they didn't have any tires for him, right? They only
Yeah.
had used soft tires for George Russell, and those soft tires were not going to go that race distance.
And that's the thing. That's what boggles my mind every now and again. Like, it seems like Mercedes have taken pages out of the Ferrari handbook of how to F up a race.
Look, I don't think anyone's expecting that red flag. What I think
I
Mercedes
agree.
were planning with George was one of his little shenanigans where a red flag or safety car was going to come out a lot later into the race, where maybe that's like
Mhm.
lap 50, where there's like over 20 laps left to go, and then George can slap on some soft tires and go, right?
Yeah, yeah. Great gamble. Great gamble. But when there's still 35 laps to go, you put on a set of mediums or hards, and then you drive.
Yeah.
That's what you do. That's what you do. I'm not a race engineer, I'm not a strategist, but I'm pretty sure that that's how you manage a race weekend.
And considering that Lewis was so much faster than George this weekend, it was boggling. I mean, George was sitting up into P4 or 5, chasing down
Mm.
Carlos, and then bam, he ate away at his tires so much that he just started losing so much pace. Right, he couldn't get past Carlos, and I think Singapore was the precursor to this. Right, I don't think George has the capabilities of getting past Carlos Sainz. I think Carlos Sainz is that big wall. Remember, like I think it was Budapest last year when Fernando Alonso kept Lewis Hamilton behind him for multiple
Yes.
laps on end,
Yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
seemed like Fernando was that roadblock to him. I feel like Carlos is that roadblock to George at this moment, where George just can't seem or find a way to get past Carlos. I think George is relying too much on performance instead of being a little bit crafty in terms of what he wants to do. And when you first see Carlos Sainz, I mean, Carlos is very creative in terms of what he's going to end up doing. We've seen
A
this.
cerebral assassin.
Yeah, I agree.
A cerebral assassin. Don't mess with Carlos, bro. That guy will strategize a way to make sure that he stays ahead of you. And we've seen him do it. We've seen him do it.
So for George to just fall away and lose a position to Lando and end up with Danny Rick 5 tenths behind him, about to overtake him with that DRS. If the race went on a little bit longer, 5 more laps, George was done.
Yeah, there is big potential for Russell ending up behind Danny Ricciardo.
100%. I don't even think big potential. I think it was guaranteed Russell was ending up behind Danny and possibly even Oscar if there was like 5 to 10 laps. But he got saved by the bell.
He got saved by the checkered flag.
The checkered flag, the bell. I like my bell analogy still. But
I like checkered flags though.
Yeah.
Checkered flags means racing.
100%. And we've got P5. Oh, one of the go-to drivers, bro. Like Lando Norris, bro. What a freaking recovery drive from the boy, right?
Yeah.
From starting so far back. I think what is that?
It's
P17.
basically no man's land with a bunch of drivers in front of you that are about to go in all sorts of directions, and to navigate your way through that, a red flag and a restart, and put yourself in P5. That's such a sensational drive. It's one of those moments where you kind of look there, you see where he finished, and you see how much of a competitive race he had, and you're like, I genuinely think that if he was able to get his qualifications, his quali through, he would definitely be on the podium.
Oh,
without a question.
He'd be P2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like him and Lewis would have been fighting to the line, right? Which
Yeah.
I think
I agree with that.
would have been a good thing for the Ferraris because it would have brought the Ferraris back into the mix.
Yeah.
But it would have been crazy to see. I usually think Lando could have gained P2 right there and then.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do agree with you.
Because I mean, he made
And speaking
5
of-
seconds so fast. Yep.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of how consistent Lando has been, if he was able to get that podium, it would have been genuinely so exciting to see, because I think he is. I don't know if he would have been able to win the race, but it's one of those things where you see the kind of drive he had over the weekend and you're like, man, maybe he could have won. Maybe. If he started in like P2 or something, maybe he could have won this race.
Oh, nah, I think
But
so. I think so.
But that's possibly me being a delusional McLaren fan.
Bro, but like, if you think about it, Max had to change tires to the same compound as Lewis because he was threatened by Lewis's pace, right? They were, Red Bull were concerned. They were like, "Oh, okay, I'm pretty sure Max got told, okay, Max, you need to increase the pace because Lewis is actually starting to catch you, right? You need to pick up the pace so that he doesn't end up catching you." And I mean, fair enough, fighting the Ferraris did end up eating away at Lewis's tires enough that Max didn't need to fight anymore as hard as he did, and it just became a quiet Sunday drive for him. But we'll get to him first. A other driver who had a quiet Sunday drive. I wanna call it a quiet Sunday drive. Carlos Sainz, right?
Indeed.
It was. I was hoping for some beautiful tire strategy thing from him, but I think that red flag just flipped everything on its head. And
A spanner in the works.
Carlos couldn't get another strategy out because of how close everyone was after the race restart. It was a thing of there's almost no point to pitting again because they don't have more tires available for yourself. So you're wasting and giving away a top 4 finish, which was a solid finish for him still.
Yeah, it is a solid finish. I mean, the fact that he is just off the podium, granted he's 4 seconds behind his teammate, which is a large deficit, but as we've said, he had a rather quiet race. He kind of just ran his own thing, and because Lando wasn't able to catch him, it kind of stagnated into a stale P4. But he's been really good throughout the second half of the season, and I want to say that maybe it's just a track specific thing where he didn't feel the pace this weekend, but I don't know. I would assume that at Brazil they'll be a lot more competitive and hopefully feel a lot more like he'll hopefully feel a lot more comfortable and confident in the car, because it seems like the Ferraris are quick on that one hot lap, but then race pace is letting them down a little bit. But it's not as bad as it was a little earlier on in the season.
Oh yeah, Austria. Eesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Austria was that worst showing of that. Something else I am more surprised of is the first of the not first place, but the P3 first person to stand on the podium, called Charles Leclerc, right? And I was surprised Ferrari didn't screw this up for Charles, right?
Yeah.
But also, I think Charles had the pace to mitigate any little tampering from Ferrari, because usually we see that Ferrari tends to leave Charles out in the dirt, and we've seen it for the past few races now, where it's just like, yeah, Charles, you need to gain this amount of time. They tell Carlos build up a gap to Charles, and then they immediately give Carlos the better strategy.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, oh shoot, we have another driver. We should probably decide to do something with him. And then it's just like Charles is like, guys.
Yeah. It's literally.
What are we doing?
Hello.
Can I get a pit stop here?
And then they go, oh, strategy C. Yeah, strategy C. And it's like, what do you mean strategy C? We were doing A just now. What happened?
He's like, Carlos. Carlos happened, and then it's like, time to Verstappen, and then they're like, if you at this pace, how much longer can you go? Okay, plan F. It's like, guys,
what?
That's way too much.
Yeah.
So I think.
I mean, thankfully they were able to. Charles was able to bring it home, especially considering the race starts, because he almost got taken out by Checo, and at least he was able to get a podium out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ferrari is like giving Charles like that little bit of false hope every now and then, like allowing him to get these P3s and podiums, because then it's just like Charles is like, I still have faith in the team because we can get onto the podium, but it's just enough that he won't be like, can I look to go elsewhere? Maybe? No? And
where would he go?
I have no hopes and dreams for him being able to find a top tier team for him to go to. There's only
Really?
down. There's only down from here.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is really only down.
Which
He's
is,
not getting into McLaren. He's not getting into Mercedes right now.
Not sure as hell not into Red Bull.
I mean, why not though?
Because Danny Rick exists.
Yeah, but like Checo, I mean, not Checo, Charles and Max in the same car.
That Max still wins that. But Danny and Max in the same car. That's still
Max
that's
still wins that.
Max still wins that, but it's a little bit more feisty because there's better jokes about it.
Yeah. It'll be more spicy. Maybe they could take each other out again and like someone else can win a damn race. But
Hopefully,
other than that,
yeah.
all I see is Max still winning because that's what Max does.
Yeah, but that's what Lewis said earlier. He's hoping to have some great battles with Max next year, and that's encouraging words. If we're hearing that from Lewis,
You know, whenever I hear that in
Yeah.
my head, I hope me and Max have great battles. I literally flash back to Monza.
yeah, Monza is the track I'm so thrown up.
It's like, I don't know if you remember the same stuff I remember, Lewis. I wasn't even in the car, dog. I didn't have a tire on my head. Like, so I don't know what you. Okay, whatever, bro. But speaking of the man himself, Lewis Hamilton is the man that did finish in P2. And yet again, it's Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in the P1 and 2 positions. That variation has happened 38 times now, which is a crazy combination.
Hey, bro, it's almost like that variation's almost getting up to how many race victories Max has, bro. That's crazy that you can have that many
That's
times.
actually crazy.
That
That's
combination, like, damn.
It's one of those things where you kind of look at it from the perspective of you almost, when you say Max Verstappen, you kind of immediately think Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, right. If Max doesn't win the race, you're like, oh, Lewis won, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
no. If both of them didn't win the race, you're like, oh shit, something spicy did happen then, right?
It's like, if both of them didn't win the race. It's like, oh, did they crash into each other?
Yeah, something like that.
Because that we know that is possible, and we know it has happened. So if they didn't finish, it's like, oh, did they crash? Did they crash? It's like, oh no, it was 2 separate incidents. I don't believe you. Show me footage.
Exactly that. And I think this race, Lewis had a great showing, and he was in tune with the car.
He was so quick this weekend.
I agree, and it's good news for Brazil. That's what I'm hoping, right? That's what I'm hoping, that this is great news for Brazil because this is the track he freaking loves.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping he can get that victory here at Brazil because if he can, it will probably be a fight to the line between him and Max. That's the thing, and I hope they can keep it clean, right? To that fight to the line. Like, imagine we get a like photo finish of a Red Bull and Mercedes trying to cross that line in Brazil.
Okay,
And Lewis
hear me out.
right?
Hear me out. I'm not trying to put this into the universe, but hear me out.
Yeah.
What if they just crash into each other and Lando wins?
Look,
How about that? How about we just do that?
look, that's
Hey, I'm just playing devil's. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but let's just break each other's wheels or something, or just just throw a spanner in the works and let Lando win a bloody race.
you see, I can't really fight against it because the thing is, both of them have won multiple races. They don't need to win another race. Lando needs to win a race. Yeah. Right. At the end, and so it's like, as much as I would love that to happen, I'm still thinking, for me, best of you see, I want to say best of the best world is Max and Lewis doing a photo finish here at Brazil, right? And then it can
Lando
be
on the top step.
It can
Lando on the top step is the best world.
No, Las Vegas, they crash each other out and Lando takes the victory in Las Vegas. The party of the land of the free, man. Lando gets freed from not winning a race. Like, I imagine that. Imagine that in the land of the free. That's what I would honestly want Lando to win, or even at Belgium. If Lando wins, it's essentially a home race for him. Silverstone, Belgium. I can't argue against that, man.
Nah, dude. Here's the thing. Brazil is historic, man.
It is.
It's historic. I would rather win at Brazil than Las Vegas. If you ask me there are 3 races that I would want to win. Monaco, number one, obviously, it's Monaco.
Yeah, okay.
Look at Monaco. Number
Second?
two, Spa.
Yeah,
Spa. I have to win. I want to win at Spa. And
100%.
number three, Sao Paulo, bruh.
Sao Paulo.
Some of the greatest world champions in the world won their world championships at that track, man.
Mhm.
It used to be the last race of the season. That it has so much significance. So, yeah, I mean, if you wanna win a race, man, to win your first race in Sao Paulo, that would be cool. That would be so cool.
But if you think of it like this, right? Currently, Las Vegas are saying that it might be just completely unreasonable to do the F1 race there again. Because of how much time it takes to set up the whole city and everything for the race itself.
Yeah.
And what if Lando wins there and Las Vegas say, yeah, no, we're not hosting another race here ever again. And Lando is the sole driver to win at a race that never appears again, bro. That's incredible to have as well. Like, I mean, I'm just saying.
Here's the thing. That's a cool thing. That's
cool.
That's a cool
It's a cool
stat.
thing.
You know what's a coolest stat line? Do you know what's a coolest stat line?
If you're gonna say Monaco, I'm
Having
gonna
my-
disagree with you.
No. Having my name next to Cross,
Okay.
Senna,
Yeah.
Lauda,
Yeah.
Nelson. Dude, come on. There's the comparisons are different. The comps are different.
100%.
Because it's essentially you're saying, oh, you want a race nobody else gives a shit about, or you want a race that some of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport has won in.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather that. I'd rather that, bro. I'd rather win that.
I must agree. Having your name alongside theirs is something
Dude.
beautiful to see.
Dude. When people say, oh yeah, no, who won at Brazil? Oh yeah. Prost, Senna, Hamilton, me. you know, like that's how you would do it.
Hey, so then you say George Russell has a great thing because he won at Sao Paulo last year.
Yeah, he does have a great thing. Sao Paulo's a great race to win.
It really is. It's a fun track overall, right?
Oh man, it's such a fun track.
Let's quickly finish these race results with Max Verstappen in P1, top step of that podium. Absolutely,
13 seconds ahead.
that was a Sunday drive for the boy, right?
Yeah.
He got told probably once to increase the pace so that they can make sure Mercedes don't catch up to them. But Mans was like, all right, cool. We're gonna go for a Sunday drive right here, right now, and enjoy that final drive right there.
Yeah, he's just out here driving this Daisy, bro.
Yeah, absolute banger from Max though to keep the consistency up. Although Singapore was that hurt. The shot in the foot that hurt him there. Overall, that does put. Let's look at the driver standings though. Like we spoke earlier, Lewis Hamilton 20 points behind Sergio Perez now. That means he could catch Sergio as well as in 2 races. If Sergio DNFs here at Brazil, or doesn't even score points here at Brazil, and Lewis gets another P2 with the fastest lap, that's 19 points. He's 1 point behind him.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think if Checo doesn't pull himself towards himself, he's going to be looking at the end of the season wondering why he doesn't have a drive.
Yep.
Because things are escalating real quick.
Also, another little interesting stat. I'm just going through all the previous races that we've seen. Max is going to hit 500 points this year.
God, that's maddening.
500 points with just the next race if he wins it. 500
That's
points.
maddening.
That is incredible to see. 500 points. No other drivers hit 500 points in one season.
Granted, no other driver has had this many races in a season. I'm just like, for that perspective, it's been a crazy amount of races this season.
And as well, not as many drivers have had the same point scoring system as we do now. We previously had a completely different point scoring system. So that does change a lot of things there, right? The battle
Can confirm.
between McLaren and Ferrari, 100 less than 100 points.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think the gap is too large in that regard for it to be closed at this point because, it's there are not enough races. Ferrari would have to DNF every race, and McLaren would have to win every race and get not even win. They need a 1-2
yeah.
for the next 3 races, and just to close the gap.
So you're putting it in the
So
universe. Lando gets a P1 and Oscar's P2 and Max is P3. I like it. I like it. I like your
yes,
suggestions. The universe.
yes, yes.
You
My
heard. You
suggestions
hear
are to
us,
the universe, and if the universe wants to listen to me, I'm taking bets.
right? You know, we can have Logan Sargent crash into Max as Max tries to overtake him. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. You didn't hear me say
Mhm.
anything.
What? What? It's
Nothing
not like
much.
this is being recorded.
Not at all in the slightest. You know, there's no evidence of anything. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's podcast. Hope you
Before
guys.
we jump off, I do want to address a rumor that I heard.
Yes.
So, I heard a little rumor that potentially Helmut Marko is on his way out of Red Bull.
Oh.
Now, technically, he's not an actual employee; he's just a sporting director of some of sorts. But apparently, him and Christian Horner are no longer seeing eye to eye, and Christian wants him out. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good thing. But, and they should probably get someone else maybe in that role where Red Bull has more control over that person so that, you know, we don't just randomly get drivers thrown out of the team because, hey man, I don't like you. I want to try this dude out now. So,
Yeah, or make irrational decisions, because honestly, he do be doing that.
or even irrational comments, bro. Like some of those
Yeah, yeah,
comments
that too.
towards Checo and everyone, it's just like, bro, just keep your mouth quiet. You don't need to say none of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah. You don't. I mean, yeah, that those comments did not help him in the slightest.
Yeah, I think that's what definitely pushed, broke the
Yeah,
camel's
yeah,
back in terms of Christian
yeah,
Horner and Muhammad Marco.
yeah. I agree with that.
So, yeah, I think
Yeah, I mean,
if it's out, it's out, bro.
look, look. In all honesty, I think Helmut Marko has made more mistakes than he's had made good calls. The best call they made was signing Max Verstappen, and they've made a ton of really bad calls since then.
Yeah, they really have. So, we'll see. We'll
But
see by next
having
season.
said that,
Mm-hmm.
that is all I wanted to bring up.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for being on the podcast once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, good sir.
You will catch us again next week after the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's another sprint race weekend, and we're gonna see some feisty things. There's some points to be gained, and you know it could be a thing that Lewis could actually get ahead of Checo with just Brazil alone, depending on what happens. But that is for a discussion on after the Brazilian Grand Prix, and to see if it was possible from Lewis. But that is all from me. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers.